Good evening, welcome to Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. I am Onyi Opala. Let's begin. We are back from Washington. The Ambazonia Stakeholder Strategic Conference to Washington, D.C. 2022. And it was a historic event. Ambazonians were revived and evidently ready to refire. That notwithstanding, as the West continues to play dirty politics over lives lost during Russian invasion of Ukraine, Putin steps up his game. Russia puts Biden and Blinken and other top US officials on a stop list that bars them from entering the country. Sanctions do not seem to move Putin. Amidst the global economy has been greatly affected. Fuel prices rising, humanitarian crisis escalating, power mongering and tussles also taking a deadlier stage. The ball is rolling. The heat is on. Where is this leading to? What could it lead to? Tonight, as we examine the pre and post Washington Stakeholders Conference, we will surely dig deeper into some of these stories. But first, let us get to the prime headlines.
John Elo and Anu tried desperately to turn down commanders against the IG in President Saka. But the Kievan went into angry tantrums when Field Marshal Zapiano turned down the calls made by some state activists for him to take over political leadership on the territory. Some of the ground commanders, without exception, resisted this temptation. The effect, however, has been confusion in the ranks. ASSC2 should retain the spirits and revive the law of our men in the trenches. Spirit-willed, yet again, and should bounce back with a vengeance. Now that we know to what extent the enemy will go, we all should be on the alert and be more watchful. Jim Mike Abdelzi for Undaunted, ABC News.
Now, welcome to the news. As the West plays politics dictates the narratives, lives are being lost, and Putin steps up his game. Russia puts Biden, Blinken, and other top US officials on a stop that bars them from entering the country. Russia said this on Tuesday. It had put US President Joe Biden, Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, and other top officials on a stop list that bars them from entering the country. Their names, together with Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, CIA Chief Williams Burns, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, and others, were included on a list of 13 individuals banned from Russia. In response to sanctions imposed by Washington on Russia's officials, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton was also named. The ball is rolling, the heat is on, power mongering and tussling. Where is this leading to? What could it lead to? Let us get into the story and see where it leads to. Zelensky appeals for help from Canada in emotional speech. Now, the Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky has asked Canadians on Tuesday to imagine bombs landing in their communities as he urged the Canadian Parliament and government to exert a greater economic and military pressure on Russia. Zelensky asked Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and lawmakers for help to enact a no-fly zone over the Ukraine. Biden to attend NATO EU summit in Brussels next week. US President Joe Biden is to travel to Brussels for NATO and EU summit next Thursday, officials said, as Western allies align their response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The gatherings on March 24th of the US leader with his European counterparts comes after Washington and Brussels unveiled successful waves of coordinated sanctions. Russia says agreement on reviving Iran nuclear deal now being polished, says the TASS. Russia's foreign ministry said on Tuesday the remaining points of an agreement aimed at reviving a big power nuclear deal with Iran were being polished, and again denied US suggestions that Moscow was blocking an accord. The TASS news agency reported earlier Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said after meeting his Iranian counterpart that Russia had received written assurances from Washington that sanctions against Moscow over Ukraine would neither hinder cooperation. Within the framework of the deal, EU aids Russian billionaire Abramovich to sanction list. The European Union on Wednesday blacklisted Russian billionaire Roman Abramovich and more oligarchs in a fresh round of sanctions following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Russia imposes sanctions against Trudeau. Canadian lawmakers, Russia is imposing sanctions against Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and over 300 lawmakers. The Russian Foreign Ministry said this on Tuesday. Fox News cameraman Per Zawuski killed in Ukraine. A cameraman for Fox News, Per Zawuski, has been killed in Ukraine outside Kyiv. The U.S. network said this on Tuesday. Zazukiv was killed and his colleague Benjamin Hall was wounded when his vehicle was struck Monday by incoming fire in Hozank. Outside the capital, Fox News Media CEO Susan Scott said Russian court finds woman for anti-war protests on state TV. A Russian court fined a woman $30,000 on Tuesday after finding her guilty of flaunting protest legislation when she interrupted a live news bulletin on state TV and denounced the war in Ukraine. The RIA news agency said Mayana Ovyakova, a Channel One employee, held up a sign behind a studio presenter reading the news on Channel One on Monday night and shouted slogans condemning Russia's February 24th invasion of Ukraine. Mayor invites Pope Francis to Kyiv to show compassion. The mayor of Kyiv has invited Pope Francis to Ukraine capital to show his compassion, but the Vatican did not say this on Tuesday if the pontiff had agreed to go. In a letter dated March 8 and viewed on Tuesday by AFP, Mayor Vitaly Klitschko wrote that the world's religious leaders' presence in person in Kyiv is key for saving lives and paving the path to peace in our city, the country, and even beyond. OPEC flags risks to oil demand outlook from Ukraine war inflation. The OPEC said on Tuesday that oil demand in 2022 faced challenges from Russia's invasion of Ukraine and rising inflation as crude prices soar, increasing the likelihood of reductions to its forecast for robust demand this year. Oil prices shot above $139 a barrel this month, hitting peaks not even seen since 2008. As Western sanctions strengthened on Moscow over its invasion of Ukraine and disrupted oil sales from Russia, helping to fuel inflation that was already rising. China, wary of being impacted by Russia's sanctions. China does not want to be impacted by Western economic sanctions on Russia. The foreign ministry said this on Tuesday as pressure grows on Beijing to withdraw support from an isolated Moscow. Beijing has refused to condemn its close ally, Russia, over its invasion of Ukraine, while blaming the United States and NATO eastward expansion for worsening tension. Russia to spend $9 billion to rebuild supply chain, PM says. Now, Russia plans to spend $1 trillion on so-called anti-crisis measures. Prime Minister Maki Mostin said on Tuesday as the government tries to at least partially offset the impact of fresh Western sanctions. The plan includes more than 100 proposals and is to be updated, Ms. Houston says, to rebuild production and supply chain. Russia says it will offer its own UN resolution on Ukraine humanitarian situation. Russia will put forth its own draft on a resolution regarding the humanitarian situation in Ukraine. Moscow's ambassador to the United Nations said this on Tuesday. Now, answering a reporter's question, Ambassador Vasily Nebuzay also said Russia will stop its invasion when the goals of its special military operation are achieved in Ukraine, including demilitarization. Russian bombardment of Kyiv bills for. Russian airstrikes and shelling hit Kyiv on Tuesday, killing at least 4 people. Authorities said as invading forces tightened their grip on the Ukraine capital and mayor announced a 35-hour curfew stating at least 8 p.m. Russian halts grain export to ex-Soviet Republic. Russia has introduced a temporary ban on export of grain, of which it is a major supplier, to four former Soviet countries to secure domestic supplies and avoid a spike in prices. Russia is also introducing a temporary ban on the exploration of grains to the countries of the European Economic Union. The government's press service said in a statement late Monday, Ukraine-Russia talks have started, and Ukraine Navigator says Kyiv and Moscow resumed talks on the war in Ukraine on Tuesday after a pause on Monday. Ukraine Navigator Mykolio Podiko says consultations on the main negotiation platform renewed. General regulation matters, ceasefire, withdrawal of troops from the territory of the country. He wrote this on Tuesday. Britain says latest sanctions hit a wealthy Russian worth £100 billion. Britain's latest round of sanctions on Tuesday included elites with a net worth of £100 billion and included Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov and Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova. The Foreign Office said, and I quote, "We are going further and faster than ever in hitting those closest to Putin, from major oligarchs to his prime minister and the propagandists who peddled the lies and disinformation," Foreign Minister Liz Truss said in a statement. UK sanctions Putin's press secretary Dmitry Peskov and Russian Foreign Affairs spokesperson Maria Zakharova. About 2,000 cars have left Ukraine besieged the Mariupol city council. Now, this report says that about 2,000 cars have been able to leave the besieged Ukrainian city of Mariupol, and a further 2,000 are waiting to leave. The city council said in an online post on Tuesday, as of 14:00 GMT, it is known that 2,000 cars have left Mariupol. It is also said that Kisho, 4 people killed in Kyiv by Russian airstrikes. This report reads that Kyiv Independent, as a result of the shelling, a fire broke out in a 16-story residential building in Kyiv Western District. Several other buildings were also hit, including the to the Lukasivia metro station. Zelensky says Ukraine needs to recognize that there is no other option and no door to NATO membership. More than 3 million refugees flee Ukraine war. UN, more than 1.4 million of these are children, according to the UN Children's Agency, that's UNICEF, while 157,000 are third country nationals. 10 million said Abramovich jet lands in Moscow after brief stop in Istanbul, reports the Reuters. A jet linked to sanctioned Russians oligarch Roman Abramovich landed in Moscow early on Tuesday after taking off from Istanbul following a brief stop there. Fighter Radar 24 data shows the jet linked to Abramovich, the owner of Britain's Chelsea Soccer Club, arrived in Istanbul from Israel on Monday, shortly after he was seen in Tel Aviv's Ben Gurion Airport. Abramovich was among 7 Russian billionaires added to a British sanction list last week to try to isolate President Vladimir Putin over Russia's invasion of Ukraine. European diplomats have embraced a similar move. The Russian oligarch, who also holds Israeli and Portuguese citizenship, has denied having close ties to Putin. Abducted mayor taken to Luhansk says Ukraine military authorities in Ukraine have claimed that Ivan Fedorov, the mayor of Melitopol, who was allegedly abducted by Russian forces on March 11th, has been taken to the separative Luhansk region, according to the latest report update by the military administration of Zaporizhzhia region, were the Meliputi incriminated with terrorism. The Ukraine Sang Pravda newspaper reported that the administration had said that a protest rally in Berdansk on Monday demanding the release of Fedorov was obstructed by Russian forces. Now you see why we question the direction of this power tussle and the gimmicks of the West. The central question remains, where could these conflicts lead to? Let Ambazonians at home feel the heat after this conference. Is a statement attributed to President Sako from the just concluded ASSC2. Here are some excerpts of closing speech delivered by the president at the close of the groundbreaking ASSC2, as well as a warm speech by the Director of Cabinet in Washington, D.C. on the 13th of March 2022. Ambazonians left Washington, D.C. reinvigorated and ready to go. There is a blueprint, some say like never before, as the nation awaits implementation and execution in anticipation. Let's get some major highlights and announcements. Now, the Office of the Director of Cabinet, under the leadership of Dr. Anderson Kejang, heartily congratulates all participants of the various local government areas and counties for their massive attendance and contributions to the just concluded Ambazonian Stakeholder Strategic Conference ASSC2. With the positive input in major decisions to propel the revolution and the financial contribution to boost the activities of the government, we salute everyone who sacrificed time and resources for the successful outcome of the national meeting held in Washington, D.C. Now, the People's IG believes that implementation of the major resolution coupled with the monetary stimulus to ease our activities would go a long way to galvanize the government actions in the home front. These actions will shorten our journey to Boer. The People's IG would like to thank you for your sacrifice and pledge to work with the local government areas and counties to implement these changes. We should remember that the different structures agreed in the ASSC2, like the Interim House of Representatives, the creation of Office of the Attorney General, amongst others, would change the equation and how government activities were being conducted in the past. Ambazonia is greater than those who are for us and those who are against us. Anyone that wants to put his or her interests above Ambazonia should and shall will be dissolved like ice in the rising of Ambazonia's sunshine. Ambazonia has reason to fall no more. We shall stop using the term ground zero to represent our country. These are the words of the president. Ambazonia is neither a mere piece of land in the middle of nowhere or a zero in any aspect. Henceforth, let's purposibly adopt the appellation, the home front, instead of ground zero. The people have decided to dissolve the ignoble Restoration Council and replace it immediately with the Interim House of Representatives. This is a major statement we have made, emphasizing to the world that we are ready and already restored our political independence on the 1st of October 2017. So we cannot continue to have a political structure known as Restoration Council, suggesting we are working to restore the independence of Ambazonia, which had already been restored. Calling our quasi legislative body a House of Representatives with a speaker at the helm makes more sense. The trees change their leaves and not the roots. Bona fide Ambazonians must remain steadfast in course with the rejuvenated IG born of ASSC2. Bona fide Ambazonians must stop looking sideways when emotionally distracted, because we will never reach our destination if we stop and throw stones at every dog that barks. Sayings of people should not walk on us. Even when haters see us walking on water, they will say it's because we can't swim. If we like, let's dance on the water. They will accuse us of raising dust. Even if Sako caught a leopard, they will still say it's a cat. Amazonian must be free. Excerpts of presentation of Deacon Tazan Wilfred to participants at the ASSC2, Washington, D.C. from the 3rd to the 13th of March 2022. A must read. Every line was full of emotion and passion. Much mileage would have covered but for the evil tactics of Mr. Anu's distractions. Mr. Anu must know that the Lord hates a proud look, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked plans, feet that are swift in running to evil, a false witness who speaks lies, and one who sows discord among brethren. This is taken from the Holy Book of Proverbs, chapter 6, 16 to 19. But now that we know to what extent the enemy can be stubborn, we all should be on the alert and be more watchful. Gab Ellison has an overview. Let's hear him.
Victoria and Midland regions. We saw the light at the end of the tunnel, and yours truly, Yaoundé, was on the verge of capitulation. It was because of this pressure that Felix and I now wanted to Cameroon to referee. You're watching the People's Television every Saturday.
We sincerely apologize for that mix up. We promise to bring you that sound bite in our subsequent bulletin. Opening remarks by Right Honorable Dr. Sadi Mohammed Tunis, who is the Speaker of the ECOWAS Parliament, has given some truth about Africa and how she can get better. The question now will be, is this another political talk? What credence should be awarded to this? How can the ECOWAS enhance Africa with these resolutions? But first, let us examine deeper his statements. Now, this particular event held at the Morovia, Liberia on the 8th to the 12th of March 2022. In attendance were Dr. George Menawe, who is the President of the Republic of Liberia, honorable members of the ECOWAS Parliament, honorable members of the Liberian Legislature, ambassadors, government officials, and others. Her Excellency, Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, former President of the Republic of Liberia, was also present. Now, the Speaker of ECOWAS Parliament has said the situations in the republics of Mali, Guinea, and Burkina Faso, exacerbated by the failed coup in the Republic of Guinea-Bissau, are threatening issues that requires our urgent attention. He said constitutional abuse and deficits in good governance principles, the lack of transparency in electioneering processes, corruption, as well as civil unrest resulting from unplanned change in constitution are factors to which coup d'etats have been hinged. As a result, our democratic process appears weakened, thereby impacting negatively on the image of ECOWAS. He also stated in addition to the above, that the policy of isolation as a result of imposed sanctions seriously undermines regional integration. Its impact appears to have consequences mostly characterized by debate by ordinary citizens in some member states on the desirability or otherwise of their continued ECOWAS membership, the prevailing political situation in republics of Mali, Guinea, and Burkina Faso, the three member states where democracy has been disrupted, and hence the decision by the authority of heads of state and government to suspend them. Speaking on the happenings in Mali, in his words, he says he expresses the hope that the Malian authorities will take seriously the new position by the ECOWAS authority of heads of state and government and take very decisive and timely steps aimed at having them reversed. In his words again, he says, we are aware that as strategic as these sanctions are, their narrative and negative consequences on the civilian population cannot be avoided. The attempted coup in Guinea-Bissau of 2nd February 2022 was condemned, and the speaker also expressed solidarity with the government and people of Guinea-Bissau. In his words, he continues to say, and I take that, we sincerely hope that the deployment of a force will help stabilize the country and guide against the reoccurrence of such anti-democratic acts. Now, the speaker also highlighted the rising insecurity in the Sahel region. As you all know, the situation is most precarious in Burkina Faso, Mali, Nigeria, and Lake Chad Basin, even Niger. Deteriorating security and violence are aggravating and already difficult humanitarian situation, especially amid the COVID-19 pandemic and climate change as well. Last year's deadly attack in the western Tahoe region of Niger, Boko Haram attacks and worsening violence being perpetrated by criminal gangs in northwestern Nigeria have together claimed the lives of at least 200,000 innocent civilians in the region. Interestingly, the speaker received a document reference genocide alert in Ambazonia, southern Cameroon, from a group under the banner United Support for Peace, which made him deeply concerned about the conflicts and human rights situation in Cameroon's minority Anglophone region. Now, in his words, this should really interest us, right? Because it's about us. He said, violence has displaced tens of thousands of people in the past year, adding to the hundreds of thousands who have fled their homes since the start of the violence in 2016. An African proverb says, and I quote, it is only a foolish person that sleeps when his neighbor's roof is on fire. We hope that the rights of all would be respected and the situation would be resolved amicably. Now, while the shame and evil was condemned in the region, the efforts of those that are moving regional democracy in the right direction was commended. The good people of Gambia was commended for the peaceful manner in which their December polls were conducted. Gambia election was preceded by similar elections in Cape Verde, with both countries demonstrating in very dear terms that democracy can win, and democracy has won. With this, we believe that Africa will definitely be great. The ASSC2 had Ambazonians represented by delegates from the 13 counties and 61 local government areas of the former British Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia and other stakeholders meeting in Washington, D.C., USA, and virtually via the Zoom platform. Now, these happened from the 3rd to the 13th of March 2022, constituted in this General Assembly, referred to as the Constituent General Assembly CGA of the 2022 Ambazonia Stakeholders Strategic Conference ASSC2, Washington, D.C., United States of America. Now, the stakeholders unanimously reiterated and maintained unflinching support of the interim government led by His Excellency Dr. Samuel Ikome Sako, President of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, as the legitimate representative leadership structure of the people of Ambazonia as empowered in the ASSC Berlin 2019. Also, they condemn the distasteful action by some disgruntled Ambazonians who recently resorted to destabilizing our interim structures by hijacking the People's Assembly. The Restoration Council are using it as a launch pad to achieve their ulterior political motives. They also rebuked the dishonorable actions by the leadership of the Restoration Council under Mr. Elvis Kometar and court, including blatantly breaching constitutionally in a desperate attempt to destabilize the executive branch of government, thus slowing the gains achieved thus far in our liberation. Appeal to all Ambazonians, especially those who have been manipulated to make wrong decisions or hold false groups on the level of commitment of this interim government to rejoin the ranks of true patriots as we continue our liberation quest of a collective, determined people. Also, is a review of the Amba Peace Plan, that is the APP. It was decided that there will be term of office for officials of the local government and counties. Local government chairpersons should have a term of office of 2 years renewable. Also, county coordinators shall have a term of office of 2 years renewable zonal partition of territory of Ambazonians. Also, the entire territory of Ambazonians shall be partitioned into three geographical territories. And that will be one Atlantic zone. It will comprise of the Fako, Kupe, Monogube, Mame, Indian counties, and the Midland zone comprising of the Labian, Mayu Mezam, and the Momo counties. Also, the Savannah zone, comprising of the Boyo, the Bui, Donga, Mantung, Mechum, and Ngokentuja counties. Also decided upon is that the name of the quasi-legislative structure of the IJ of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia Eastwell, referred to as the Restoration Council, will henceforth be called the Interim House of Representatives, that is the HR. The leader of the IHR shall be referred to as Speaker of the House. Also, the Restoration Monday fee stipulated in Section 6, subsection B in the app guideline has been abolished. Section 6, subsection F, stipulating $1 a day till restoration has been replaced by a monthly local government area levy of at least $20 per member or at least $240 per year plan. Considering citizenship level, Section 10B of the APP guidelines shall be replaced as follows. A basic plan from $10 monthly or from $120 yearly, pillar plan from $25 monthly or from $300 yearly, premium plan from $50 monthly or from $600 yearly, super plan from $100 monthly or from $1,002 yearly, elite plan from $150 monthly or from $1,800 yearly. For appointment of cabinet officials, cabinet appointments or appointees that rise to the cabinet level shall be submitted to the IHR for vetting upon submission of a cabinet appointment by the President of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. The IHR shall have 30 calendar days to do its investigation of appointee and communicate the fact to the President of the FRA, that is the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. Should the HR fail to do its work within 30 days of the submission of the cabinet appointees, the cabinet appointees shall automatically assume office with full rights. For impeachment of the president, it was decided that there shall be no regular presidential election during this liberation phase. However, in case of acts by the President of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia that are considered high crimes, treason, and misdemeanors, making him or her unfit for office, the IHR can vote to impeach or indict the president by 75% majority vote in a full house. That is, a vote to impeach the president shall not mean removal of the president from office, but an indictment that will require a trial. And the second one also says a successful impeachment vote shall lead to the president being tried by the 13 county coordinators following due process, stating established fact and proven intent with evidence presented to the IHR and a hearing in the presence of the state attorney of the federation. The trial will be overseen by the Judicial Council and Ethics Commission, who will jointly proclaim the verdict that will follow the trial. A vote of 10 out of 13 county coordinators shall be sufficient to remove the president from office, and the vice president will become the acting president. The section of a new president, according to the procedure prescribed in the interim constitution, must be done within 3 months. The president further emphasized that home should be used rather than ground zero. The ASSC too was historic. Ambazonians were revived and evidently ready to refire. But the question of the history and legacy of the interim government is worthwhile. The newsroom on this special report examines the interim government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, a continuation of Dr. E.M.L. Endeli's government. Gab Ellison has a close observation. Let's take a look. Well, we sincerely apologize for our inability to bring you that sound bite. We'll definitely do that in our subsequent bulletin. But now to sports. Now, Manchester United have crashed out of the UEFA Champions League. Some delayed games in the English Premier League will be played today. The European Union imposed sanctions on Chelsea Football Club owner Marius Modamaji, who leads Chad provincial squad for AFCON 2023 preliminary. Let's hook to Gab Ellison for more sports reports. All right, whilst we are waiting for Gab Ellison, Manchester United have crashed out of the UEFA Champions League round of 16 after being defeated at home by Spanish side Atletico Madrid 1-0. The goal was scored by Atletico Madrid fullback Renard Lodu during the last minutes of the first half. The goal came through controversial circumstances after Manchester United players claimed foul on Anthony Elanga ahead of the build-up to that goal. Manchester United came back in the second half to determine to find an equalizer, but all attempts to that proved unfruitful due to Atletico Madrid's low block. Atletico Madrid moves to the quarterfinals of the competition after a 2-1 aggregate win. In another Champions League played yesterday, it was Benfica that defeated Dutch side Ajax of Amsterdam 1-0 to move to the quarterfinals on a 32 aggregate win, coming into the 16 finals. For games coming up today, Chelsea carry a 2-0 first leg to win France as they battle things out in French Champions League. Lille will need at least a 2-0 first leg win to France as they battle things out in Italy. Juventus and Villarreal will have everything to play for both sides. Some delayed games of the English Premier League will be played today. Antonio Conte and his Tottenham side will want to keep their Champions League hope alive when they travel to take on the Brighton at the American Express. It is worth mentioning that Brighton have gone 5 games without a win and will be hoping to make things right this time around. In another delayed game, there is everything to play for when Arsenal entertain Liverpool at the Emirates Stadium. Arsenal will once extend to the gap and top up their challenges, while Liverpool will be hoping to close the gap or to just 1 point to league leaders Manchester City. The European Union imposes sanctions on Chelsea owner Roman Abramovich. Now, this story is quite interesting. The European Union imposed sanctions on Chelsea Football Club owner Roman Abramovich as part of new package of measures targeting Russia and President Vladimir Putin's close allies. The EU included the Russian oligarch in its updated list of individuals facing assets freeze and travel bans over the role of Russian invasion of Ukraine. The 55-year-old Abramovich had already been punished in Britain by Prime Minister Boris Johnson's government last week. The aluminum magnate was among 7 wealthy Russians who had their assets frozen under Britain's sanctions in response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The EU said Abramovich had privileged access to the Russian president and his man, very good relations him. The connection with Russian reader helped him to maintain a considerable wealth. England opens account in tournament with 4 wicket victory. England finally gets their World Cup campaign off the mark with a 4 wicket win, giving their net run rate a massive boost with little under 19 overs to spare. Indian, though, did well to snare 6 wickets, 3 of which went into Meghna Singh Kitty and certainly couldn't defend it. A total in excess of 200 if only the batters had shown a little more application. India, meanwhile, faced an even tougher test later in the weekend as they take a 6-time champion, Australia, who are among the 2 sides yet to lose a game in the tournament. Motula Raj and co will have to quickly regroup and iron out their battling flaws as they plot what will consider an upset win by some later this week. And with this sports report, we've come to the end of Prime News here on ABC Amba TV. But before we go, a recap of the major stories. Today, on Undaunted, we brought to you that Russia has put Biden, Blinken, and other top US officials on a stop list that bars them from entering the country. We also told you that the ASSC2 just extended in Washington, D.C. with far-reaching resolutions. Also, after ASSC2, Deacon Tatsang shuts up Crete Anu and has proposed a way forward. We also told you and brought to you some excerpts from the 2022 First Extraordinary Session opening remarks by Right Honorable Dr. Sadi Mohammed Tinis. Finally, the resolutions from the just concluded ASSC2 has been published officially and Ambazonians are excited. And in sports, we told you that Manchester United had crashed out of the UEFA Champions League. Some delayed games in the English Premier League will also be played today.